to start presentation. So here is what we're really exploring. Many times when we talk to people, Gerhard mentioned the op-ed we published. There was a lot of questions there, and you could, as we do, we get comments and we can kind of cluster them, then we can thematize them, then we can see what was it that these 600 said, okay? Forget some of the swearing things and other things, calling us, dumb PhDs or something like that. That's okay, fine. But what was there, to be honest, after analyzing that 600, came out that there are severe, strong, undeniable misconceptions about undocumented immigrants. So here is, if there is hope for people who would receive information, think and maybe change, so there is room for more work. If you see what this conference is about, it's about the stat issue. So if we can inform, if we can bring issue, if we can be convincing in a way that shows that we're not really making up, because news are usually made up, unfortunately. But if you can bring things which are real, you can give the evidence, you can present it with the sources, then you have a chance that people will think about it, and maybe you will change minds. Okay, with that in mind, this is what really we have brought for you. So we're going to look at immigrants as a part of families, the broader families in California. We're going to look at the participation, that's not the general title, like participation in labor markets or labor force. We're going to look at the economic impact, and we're going to look at tax contribution. Why am I separating tax contribution from economic impact? Because it's the same thing, because of emphasis. I wanted us to have emphasis on tax contribution, okay? Because this is one of those myths. Oh, they grab our tax money, they rob us, and all of that. Absolutely the contrary, okay? It's not true. So when you look at these issues, when you bring evidence, maybe you can change your mind, okay? There's always hope. And then what comes out of this discussion? What comes out of this discussion is interconnectedness between undocumented immigrants and the rest of California. So that's important to realize, that's important to come to agreement, okay? And then how to bring the integration of undocumented immigrants. This is what we're really looking at, okay? With that, there are 4 of these maps on the report, and there are 3 here that I really put it there. The first one is the foreign born, just like me, okay? So you have the foreign born here. So you look at it in California, around 27, a little less because these are 2019 figures, around 27% of Californians are foreign born. You have a lot of them in actually School of Management. We're all foreign born there, okay? So Gerhard is one too. So a lot of us here. So if you look at the second one, am I doing it right? Vinny is stuck. Okay.
I got it.
All right. Okay. All right, we'll come to the second one.
Yeah, it's working.
All right, good. The second one is the, again, they're all actually presented per 1,000 population. So this is undocumented immigrant. If you look at how many or what percentage of that is in California, it's 7%. And you can see our county, other counties around, you can see them all there. This is very, very important. Why? Because this, if you look at that long title is on the top, it says number of undocumented immigrants ages 15 or older living with a U.S. citizen and non-citizen children, okay, age 18 per 1,000. So what does that mean? It means families. It means families that are undocumented regardless of a particular label. They are families. So what is in California? That's about 9.4%. In our own county is just about over 10%. and other places that you can see there. All right, is that enough? No. We'll go further. This one actually is very interesting, and it may resonate with a lot of people here, because this one is about what? It's about children, right? You know what we say? Children are our future. Think about it. These are children. What the figure tell us? It tells us that 29.2%, I don't have to really look at it because I remember that it was printed in my mind. 29.2% of children, Hispanic children, live with undocumented parents. Think about it. 30% almost. And let me just go with some of the stuff that I'm going to really repeat a few times later, now that my mind is fresh on it. How can we put our children into fear of ICE? Bluntly. We don't have to really kind of beat behind the bush. Right there. How can we have the fear of ICE in their hearts? What would that do to their future? What would that do to the future of this state, our cities, our country? So look at the numbers, you know, in kind of general, 17.4%. Look at the Asians, others. These are real figures. It's about life, okay? Let's go further. And by the way, usually sometimes I speak very fast. I've been told that many times. So I'm trying to speak not really too fast. But I thought I'd just write on the edges, okay? So the kind of gist of the thing, you know, that you see in the graph or the table is also written there, okay? And sometimes, you know, I got a little bit carried away. You'll see it later on. So if you go here, this is another one. So they talk about undocumented immigrant. They talk about, you know, just arrived, you know, like 2 years ago. Now, there's 2.7 million, according to the Migration Policy Institute. 31% of them been here for more than 20 years. So that was the theme of the last conference. What does it take to call a place a home? Think about it. More than 20 years. 72% been here for what? For more than 10 years. So we're talking about Californian or US people, general, without label. Cool. Oh, the other one. The children, 4.2%. So what is the other significance of this thing here? I'm sorry, this is the age. The other significance of this number is that they are working people. They are age of participating in labor market. And why is that important? Because we are aging state and country. I mean, I did this report some years ago for Ventura Community Foundation, you know, long-term care. We got the figures for this county by 2060. Well, I thought that, you know, sometime, you know, instead of giving percentages, put it a little bit more directly. And about 30-some years from now, in this county, which is not the same, different in other places, you know, in California, for every 2 kids under the age of 15, you've got one guy who is 85 years or older. And what is the situation now? Very different. Very different. We have something that's called support ratio. We take certain ages, you know, divide them by certain ages, and we come up with a ratio, and then we interpret the ratio. So here is a case for you. Right now, for that kind of care, the figure is around about 6. And about 20-some years, it becomes 2.3. What does that mean? It means we're going to take care of ourselves. And, by the way, talking about age and getting older population has other implications, what I teach in my microecon class, okay? Who saves? Children don't save. Older people don't save. The younger working age save. So when an economy gets older, you have a reduction in saving. And in any macroecon class that you took or didn't, it calls the basis of what? Investment. So, don't kind of look at, the age of the T. So it gives you opportunity to adjust. So put it this way. They are participants in the labor market. They are providing opportunity for adjustment in time and the rest of it, okay? So I could really go a lot more about it, but I have other things to say. Okay, so let's go on. So this one, sorry, I kind of look at I think I talked about this in advance. This is, now I said, what happened to that slide? Okay, that is the age, that is the number of years that undocumented immigrant being here. I already explained that, so I don't have to go there. So go to the next one. So here again, we're looking at another myth. Undocumented immigrants, primarily in agriculture, they are not educated. Well, look at this chart. What does that tell you? It tells you exactly what it is out there. So if you look at educational attainment by bachelor, graduate, and professional, we have 339,000 undocumented immigrants who are in this category. All right? So if you look at educational attainment for the population in mind, that's 15%. Given, it's less than the US born. But you can't just dismiss it. So if you put that number, that means almost, if you take, for example, Ventura County, that's a little bit like 40% of Ventura County population, even with the latest numbers. So, and then about, either having a high school diploma or equivalent, that is about 48.5%, if you add them all together. Okay, let's move on. Labor market. So here we're looking at, we kind of alluded to that earlier on, but here is, maybe a little more succinct. So we're talking about the civilian population ages, we're talking in the labor force. So it's 69.2%. If you look at the report makes a comparison between the labor force participation on undocumented immigrant and the general population. The general population is about just over 63%. Undocumented immigrant are 69%, okay, labor force participation. Well, it's quite, they are in the age, for one thing, that different, with the general population also need to work. And yes, so they're employed. And by the way, the rate of unemployment is higher than the rate of unemployment in the general population. And these are, again, 2019 figures. One thing about, when you go from like 2019, 2020, or 21, a lot of these issues that, I bring to your attention, they are structural. I mean, they change, but not really over a year or two. So kind of bear this in mind. So let's move on. So here are something that, again, primarily in agriculture. Well, I'll put it this way. Yeah, you will see another figure that 46% of the GDP, contribution to agricultural GDP. Yeah, 46% are from undocumented immigrants, but only 15.5% of undocumented immigrants are in agriculture. So you know that they all work, in agriculture. They contribute, they carry agriculture on their shoulder, put it this way, in terms of labor force, but they're not all there. It's only 15.5%. So what are the other? The other numbers are there. For example, you can see it in retail trade, you can see it in manufacturing, construction, pretty much everywhere. So you can see that this is the kind of spread. The title of this conference and the title of this talk, the title of that report in some extent is Separating Myth from Realities. So we live our myth, a lot of us. In this room, I'm pretty sure it's not the case. But, this is important for us to really look at this stuff, and see what the realities are. Okay, so let's move on. So this one is, it's another number. Oh yeah, this is very important. Comparing wages. We took median wage. So you look at undocumented immigrant median wages, again, 2019, it's $13. Look at US born, 26. Well, some say that, but you see, the reason is that maybe the educational attainment, that really contributed, maybe other things, different industry that they are. Yeah, they do contribute, 100%. Well, the reason that I kind of left it there, because if I want to really do a research, I have to do a lot more on that to kind of filter it in the way it's possible to filter. But there's no, without shadow of doubt, there is wage depression on that. So you can't get that kind of numbers without it. So 13 to 26. So here, we go economic impact. Last time, when I put the output impact, and then the question was that, what do you mean by output impact? So this time, I'm sure that I'm going to really exhaust you when you read the report, detailed definition of what output is, what value added is, what these things are. So we don't want to really leave you in sort of doubt about these things, you know. So if you really read the report, I hope you do, or at least parts of it that you're interested, it's all been explained. So $512 billion. That's not direct contribution of undocumented immigrants. So what's the significance of this number? The significance of this number is that undocumented immigrants' work contribute to creation of $512 billion in the county. So more detail, we're talking about what's the difference between value added and output, which is explained, not difficult, pretty clearly explained in the report and also in the PowerPoint presentation. There also the issue is what we call indirect and direct. So what we did, how do we get these numbers out? We use a model which is called IMPLAN. When I say we, Ruslan and I. So IMPLAN is a software model which estimate regional output. And what they do is that you put them, you know, in the input-output model, and you run it, and what comes out of it is that you have a direct impact, and then you have indirect, and then you have induced. So indirect is like between businesses, induced is when we spend, the salary we receive, and then you get all of these things run together, and then you find, you know, what is the overall impact. So every time you see it, you know, you have what? Direct, indirect, and induced. So 512 billion is the output contribution through all these different cycles of impacts. But if you want to be more succinct, then we go what is called value added. So value added is basically like industry contribution, really. I mean, make the longer story short. Again, I wrote a little bit on that. You know, being a teacher, you know, you get carried away, usually explain things a little more than usual. Well, that's, you know, part that comes with the job. But I did explain because I don't want to leave things, you know, in kind of vague, you know, so put it there. So what is that? That comes to 152, roughly, around $52 billion contribution of undocumented immigrant in California. What would that be in 2019? That would be 4.9% of California GDP, okay? 4.9%, okay? Now, let's move on. Oh, we put also the induced and indirect, but I don't really bring them up right now. It's just there to tell you that. Why is it important? Because, you know, there is a theme here which is called interconnectedness workplace. When you work, you're not just supporting your own job. You're supporting all those industries or come to you industries that you feed to, in and out. That's what input-output is. So, so you want to see that, you know, because I want to really bring out interconnectedness in this conference time and time and time, so we can understand where we are in the kind of big picture, so to speak. Okay, let's move on. Oh, this one. This one is the economic impact in different industries. So there's something here I have to really explain, that why we have 11. Well, 11 were because the data that we used come from Equity Research Center. By the way, we have, you know, Ty. I don't know if Ty is here or not, because he's on our panel. He's a data scientist from Equity Research Center and USC. And also we have data from Migration Policy Institute that we used. So, by the way, our panel members, with the exception of Alvaro, that come from Moorpark, they all come from outside this place, this area. So 3 of them come from Los Angeles. So hopefully they get here on time. So Let's go back again to this chart. So 46% of agriculture are contributed, what? By undocumented immigrant. So if you go to construction, that is 18%. Then you go to manufacturing, 7, transportation, 4, retail trade, 17, and so on and so forth. Okay, so you can see them all there. Then I thought that maybe it would be a good time to see what exactly is the structure in California. So I added that one from the Bureau of Economic Analysis to 2022. Doesn't matter, you know, it's still structurally different over these years. So you can see that in California, what are the contribution of different industries, okay, sectors. Oh yes, like most economies of like California, the finance, you know, real estate, you know, other things, you know, insurance formed the biggest block, and then information, and then finally somewhere around there, education, others. So you can see, you kind of make a comparison, so you get a sense of it, you know, where that 4.9% come from. All right. So continuing with that, this is also has a very important significance. What's the significance of this? The significance of this is the following. Again, going back to interconnectedness. Well, we used, again, data. So we used how many of these 2.7 million actually work. So it's roughly about 1.6 million. And then, so we go there, and again, we look at what is called, you know, direct, indirect, and induced. What do we find there? What we find is very interesting, that out of the work of the undocumented immigrant, right, there are 1.25 million additional jobs created. So maybe one of those people who were telling that how dumb we are by writing that op-ed, job depends on the work of undocumented immigrant. We are interconnected. We are interconnected. That's how an economy works. That's how society works. They're not in separate boxes from each other. No. There is no evidence of that. We're human beings. When we live together, we contribute to each other. We benefit from others and benefit others. And so this is important. Again, coming back about interconnectedness. 1.25 million additional jobs come from the work of the undocumented immigrant. Move on. Labor income. Well, labor income, again, you can see, you know, with the direct and indirect, so that's about just over 99 billion. And then I'll explain exactly what labor income means, because it includes a lot of other components. It's not just what goes in their pocket. So you can see the detailed explanation of that. I don't think you can see it, you know, from the small print that you have on the PowerPoint, but you can see it definitely in the report. Do please. There is one copy of that on every table, so you can grab it and look at it there, you know, and see that better. Or, you know, from your iPhone or your computer that you downloaded the report, so you can see a lot more information there. Okay. So we go here on the tax. So I really took tax outside that because there's a lot of, again, myth about tax. And, well, you know, they take our tax money, they are takers, they abuse, are very open, you know, borders. I'm not really, by the way, I'm just repeating what they're saying. I don't believe in all this stuff anyway. It's just, you know, just repeating what you hear. Oh, they come here, take advantage of us and all of that stuff. That's another big myth. So I said, okay, let's see what exactly is their contribution. What you see here is exactly what you see in this particular chart. So we have here Social Security taxes, okay? We have got here also the personal tax. And then, you know, there's a bunch of other things, you know, kind of compact together here, other personal taxes that pay at state level. And Social Security by the employers and Social Security by the employees themselves. So I kind of netted it because here is the kind of principal issue. If your employer pays Social Security for you, it's not giving you a gift. It's based on your work, okay? So you could really say that, you know, the Social Security contribution from an employer is really coming from you. But in general, you're not paying it from your pocket because the way we report the paychecks, you know, and the way that we put, you know, deductions, other things, you know, come out, you know, how much do you really pay? Well, in 1040, when you fill up, you put how much you really actually paid and what Social Security you paid. But obviously, you know, it's also your employer. So make the long story short, if you really net it out, it's about $17.5 billion that go from them. Because how do they really pay that? Well, there are two things. And again, this is one with a lot of notes on the side. So this is another that I want you to really find that in the report and read it properly from there. So here are the just what you see written on that edge. So one thing is that, well, 70.5 roughly is what they pay. So to taxes, social security payment, other things, like for example, you pay for cars, for house, for other things, and they're all lumped together, broken down, in details. So, but when you put all of this together and you kind of look at it, you say that, what do they really get for it? Well, here is the case. Here is the case. They means undocumented immigrant and the employers pay together about $9.3 billion. Do they get a dime of it? No. They're not entitled to Social Security payment. They're not entitled to food stamps. They're not entitled to Pell Grant. They're not entitled to any of this stuff. Nothing. Child support, nothing. So, some of you heard me on the CLU. They are makers. They subsidize us. They're not takers. Clearly. This is one of the other myths that unfortunately we don't get to talk about. Huh? All we talk about is, crimes and other things and tax money being taken, No. There's no single evidence for any of this stuff. Nothing. It's just made up. And you know why they made up, okay? Why they make that up. Okay. So this is, again, find this one in the big report and read it from there because there's a lot there to be kind of, what they call it, unpacked. So we go on, okay, so I think we talk about that in that one. So I wanted to single them out, so I kind of took it out and then put, two charts there, so making sure that we really pass on that important critical information, okay. So would that bring us together? So we call it, the interconnectedness between undocumented immigrant and every Californian. So let me go over this. When you think about California, okay, I lived a significant, well, I say the biggest portion of my life. Yeah, I lived in California for 38 years. So one of the important things about California is that it's a place where immigrants and others contribute. So I was interested when I was doing the research, so I looked at some information that in 1850, so 170 years ago, there's a website you can put, how many people really living in California, but they were born outside. At that time, the highest proportion of people who lived in California, by the way, people who lived in California and were born in California, in that part of the history was number 5 on the scale. So the first one was New York, by the way. And the second one was Mexico, okay? So then, on that database, I had access to 2018, roughly 170 years ago. By the way, till 2010 was not that far ago, the proportion of people, so I'll repeat again, till 2010, the proportion of people living in California, born in California, was not the, so to speak, the majority, okay? So it was not like, in 2018, so you kind of passed 50, that threshold, And then, so the proportion of people born, not necessarily in other countries, but in other states also. So it just shows, what California ties or relationship is with migration and immigration both, okay? So in 2018, yes, 22 million of California at the time, so which is more than 50% were born in California and living in California. And guess what was the second highest? Mexico. 4.1 or 2. The exact figure is in your in the report. You can look at it. So this is California. So when we say immigrants contribute art, culture, entrepreneurship, creativity, everything else, it's not a myth. It's a reality. Undocumented immigrants are a part of that. No doubt about it. And if you look at California, so why are we talking California about this? You know, we talk about immigration integration in California. Yeah, the term is immigration integration. Repeat that. And that is because if there is, well, a few maybe, but one of the distinct states where these things may have a far better chance is California. So I think it's something that we should be really feel very good about it. So this is a historic review of migration, immigration, and what exactly population of California constitutes. So I wrote more about it in the report. You can read it, and the references, you can go there. So what else? The other part of this interconnectedness, as I explained in detail, is that life, the children. Okay, it's important. So I want to repeat that. 29.2% of Latino kids live with undocumented immigrants. Okay, let's say 30% to give a round number. Asians actually 13 point something, 4 or 5. Altogether about 17.4%. So children are our future. Look at these numbers. Again, I want to repeat that. We need to bring peace in the life of our children. We have to invest in them. And that thing about not having what they call entitlement, access to entitlement. We've been working with some of you folks here on establishing a universal high quality, I have to repeat that, establishing a high quality universal early childhood education. VCCF headed that. And I want us to kind of think about that how important that is. That's investing in children. So I'll repeat that again at the end. Look, reaching people is important. Having an entitlement is just a step one. It means a lot, but it doesn't mean that you get it. So how do they put, entitlement to food stamps? I work with data all the time, as a part of my daily activity working with data. So here is a number. Based on your economic status, you're entitled to food stamps. Does that mean you can get it? No. If you're undocumented immigrant, you're not getting it. And by the way, those who get it, do they really actually get it? Really make cash on it? Child support, educational support part, not just child support. That's another thing. So we have a state entitlement. We have federal entitlement. Just for I'm just going to mind of time. Yeah, I got time. So if you really look at these numbers, I kind of made that example in some of the other occasions that I were fortunate to have some people around on the issue. That is like, wow, federal government gives 14.5 or somewhere around there. I didn't check the latest number. Support for children, child education, early education, and the state government is kind of opened that a lot because those really is a poverty line, but the state is far greater than poverty line. In fact, our latest work with Jerusalem work on that was 331% of the poverty line. You get entitlement to getting money from the state for sending your child, to early childhood education. How many people do it? We calculated it. We wrote a paper on it. How many? So it looks like this. You have a bank account, money in it. You don't have a check to write against it. So do not get too optimistic about entitlement. How entitlement gets actually materialized, taken advantage of, needs assistance, help, reaching people, helping them. I think there's an enormous amount of potential for establishing type of nonprofit that can reach out, help people, bring them. Like, you know, when I was working the UN, the NGOs, yeah. So you need to create that kind of facilities to be able to take advantage of. Otherwise, entitlement are to be written in the budget and to be forgotten and not really used at all. Some of you work on that, you know what I'm talking about. So writing, having entitlement doesn't mean you get it, you know. Like it takes a lot of effort, you know, to do that. Anyway, even if you are entitled. So those things are about children and how they're, you know, the kind of the issue of interconnectedness, you know, that I brought up here and I talk about it. And then finally, their impact on the GDP. Okay. So, so I explained that, you know, a few times, so I want to really finish this in about 10 minutes, even have more time for Q&A. We'll put like 15 minutes. I think we're going to end up with 20 minutes for Q&A. So that means I have to really finish that in about 10 minutes, which I will. Okay. So these are facts. These facts, I hope, can help us to demystify, to kind of take the kind of myth and really bring realities to it. So we can understand what is that we are. So I really hope that if you haven't really heard this thing before, when you go out of this conference today, you say that, oh gee, I never thought that was the case. I hope a lot of you will come up with a lot of that things in your mind, because that is where the change is to happen. To know first, to be informed first, with reliable information, and then the rest of it comes in its own good time. Okay, so what do we have to do? So again, there are pages of that on the report, but here, take the fear away from families. That means, clearly, is this. Undocumented immigrants are not to be handed over to ICE. Okay? Now, people do crimes, doesn't matter, you're documented, undocumented, or whatever, you get, you know, caught on that. These are just knowing, you know, well, we can report, you know, to ICE, and ICE work is to go through the process of deportation. So that's a very important thing. So, directing efforts towards social and economic inclusion. Legal. We've got a rule here in our panel on that. We've got an excellent expert on that coming up. Financial support by creating financial facilities. Okay? We live in an economy that without having access to finance, we're really limited what we can do, you know. So just look at our life. So that is, in California, anywhere around the United States, an important issue to create that type of facilities. Extended to undocumented immigrants. I wish we had somebody from the community bank here. I don't know whether we have it or not. We have one in Oxnard. So important for those community banks to think about this stuff, to see what they can do. You know, there are ways to be done, you know, so financial assistance, important. Legal help, important. Language barriers to be taken away. And then again, you know, some ideas. For example, any of these kind of community meetings that we have or hearing or conferences, the first essential budgetary item is to have interpretation, okay? Simultaneous, 2 ways. I was a little bit, you know, not very happy to kind of heard from Vinny that, you know, people who are actually watching us on Zoom do not have that stuff. You know, next time we'll fix it. But so, yeah, you have to be able to communicate here exactly, and with the numbers that we said, that obviously, you know, ability to understand and speak and learn and receive information in Spanish is important. So, well, why we have so much myth? Why we have so much misconceptions? I don't have to talk about that. We know why. Take us away from our real economic problems. divert attention to other things, scapegoating, taking people to think about something else. Because after all, when a significant, I can't really hesitate to say majority, significant proportion of people live check by check, paycheck by paycheck. You got to explain to them that so much prosperity exists in this country for so few. We need to talk about that. Well, immigrants, I don't know, cultural war, whatever woke means, I still don't know what the hell that is, but those kind of stuff. So bring them on, because the best thing is, to divert attention, to bring another thing, maybe kind of engage them, and put the blame on them. So we know that. That's very clear there. So be mindful of the fact that immigrants, undocumented immigrants serve as a scapegoat. So bold that. So what do we do in order to overcome that? Those who are sociologists here, or all disciplines of humanities are here. Economics is definitely one of those. This model of anti-oppressive practice, or AOP, got some quite important attraction. So there's a lot of literature on that, but I kind of put some gist of it here so we can really understand that. So the core of that approach is that we have to kind of break down the kind of oppressive system which prevent people from engaging, from participating, from learning, from making themselves, their opinion, other things known, their wishes expressed. So that's really the principles of AOP, because oppression is really pervasive. Sometimes it's very hard to recognize, okay? So the core of these type of changes are AOP, to be very, very clear about it. So, for example, we have DEIJ. We have a very good one here too, Lutheran. So charge them. The DEIJ with taking a very important active role based on those principles, anti-oppressive, practice, which they do, by the way, but be more overt about it, be clear about it, county level, every other level. So anti-oppressive practice in DEIJ is very important. For example, we have, Hispanic studying institutions, which Lutheran is one of them. It's very important to really take that and carry it, not really saying that we're not doing it, but I'm saying it's very important that you bring, that type of modality, that type of thinking, that type of structural, type of policy setting, activities-based, other things, based on AOP is important. So what is that? So basically is that, by the way, community hearing, particularly involving sheriff department. We've got Willie Lopka here. I mentioned him once. Well, he's a really very important in terms of social justice person. We have, I don't know whether Cynthia, Dr. Duarte is here or not, for our Center for, Thank you so much. I was just trying to remember, the abbreviation of that. Yes, that is very important. We have that. I saw Cynthia, I heard Cynthia. So you're here. Good to have you here. All right. And so these are the things that we really have to be very, very meticulous about it. Develop that. Bring it on. And we do have. We have. The meetings, that are there. That hearing with the sheriff department was really eye-opening for me. Well, it's very interesting. I had a little presentation based on my previous study there. I think we should really do that because we have to talk to each other. These things are does not really exclude anybody. Conversation, and those conversation has to be really frank. Not beat behind the bush. Bring out some information, some data, share it, discuss it. Bring it together. So we help undocumented immigrants to feel protected, come out and have more significant presence in the community life. And by the way, one figure, because the question of what they call legalization, if that's one terminology to use, but basically is path to citizenship. I like that better. There have been laws in 2006, 2013. Lawmakers don't pick it up. You know why? Because of a lot of misconception about it. They fear they may lose, the support of their electorates. That's a possibility. But the important thing here is about these issues are that we need to really discuss them in the community, we bring them on and talk about it. And in all of those conversations, in all of those meetings, there has to be people that we are discussing their life. If they're not present, that meeting lacks significantly. Because people that you're supposed to bring positive change have to be present. They will tell us what the themes are. We don't create for them. So if you're researching, here is a good tip for your research. You listen to what the problems are before formulating it in your mind. So their presence in every room is absolutely vital. I contacted some of my friends that helped them, and I even opened up, say that just ask those community members to come here, we'll waive the fees or whatever and welcome them. And I insisted on that, So we have people that come here and bring, their stories and bring their vision, bring their mind, their ideas to those who are talking about them.